Here in Australia, it is Anzac Day. Anzac Day is an important time for us Aussies and New Zealanders to stop and remember those that paid the ultimate sacrifice, those that went and fought for freedom so that we could actually have many more days, years to come. It's amazing to me that in 365 days of the year, we only have 2 of those days to stop and remember those that have given their all. They gave everything so that you and I could live on. Meanwhile, we give, I don't know how many days, but over 100 days of the year to celebrate or worship the LGBT Rainbow Alphabet Mafia mob. And that to me is outrageous. They've done nothing for our society, nothing good at that. Yet the actual heroes, the courageous men and women that paid the ultimate sacrifice for you and I so that the LGBT mob can have all of their praise for over 100-something days of the year, those men and women are only given 2 days. This morning I went to a dawn service. It was emotional. I could not believe, I really could not believe that they're only given 2 days. We would not be here if it weren't for them. The brave men that stormed the beaches of Gallipoli because the Ottoman Empire decided to join forces with the Germans and threaten democracy, threaten our freedom. Everyday Australians, regular people, young people, decided to give up their lives in Australia and go. World War I, the war to end all wars, it was called. Boy, were they wrong. The things that those men suffered through, I hate to even describe. The trenches were horrible. The diseases that they had to endure. Most men died more of disease than they did of a bullet. And still, they stayed and they fought. There's an old saying from Odysseus. It's actually in the movie Troy. I was watching it the other night. War is old men talking and young men dying. Odysseus, who was played by Sean Bean in the movie Troy, was saying that to Achilles. And then at the end, he says, ignore the politics. The reason why I say that is because, unfortunately, Anzac Day has become very, very politicized. Instead of it being a day of remembrance and significance, it's now been hijacked by woke ideologues, woke dingbats, ladies and gentlemen, that all they want to do is virtue signal their own agenda. I'll get into the story of the teachers, the pro-Palestine teachers that are trying to change history to suit their own narrative and paint the Anzacs as being evil and the true victims, or the true villains, of the war. Not the actual Ottomans, not the Germans. No, they were apparently the good guys, but no, the Anzacs, they were the real villains here because they did some things. They did some horrible things. And apparently these revisionist historians come in. They're not even real historians. They're just revisionist dingbats, if you ask me. They just try and smear all the good that those brave men achieved. I'll show you that in just a moment. But before I do, I want to share this video with you all. It's about 4 minutes long. I know it's a little bit long, but watch it to the end. I promise you, you'll want to finish the whole thing. The reason why I said Anzac Day has become very politicized of late is because for some reason we have a welcome to country before the Anzac Day service even begins. We don't need a welcome to country. We don't want a welcome to country. Do you think the Anzacs at all had time to stop before they stormed the beaches of Gallipoli and go, let's do a welcome to country? I don't think so. They were too busy fighting so that you, dingbat, that actually wanted to do the welcome to country, could actually do it. To me, it is highly disrespectful and disgusting on all the days that you choose to do a welcome to country. It's Anzac Day, which completely takes away from the significance of the day. It takes away from the Anzacs. It's their moment, not yours. It's theirs. This is their day. All the servicemen and women, it's their day, not yours. This is not your time to get up there and virtue signal to the entire bloody world. Have a watch.
I'm a Gunditjmara man on my mother's side, and I'm a Bunurong man on my father's side. And this morning, I'm here to welcome everybody to my father's country. Beautiful Bunurong country. But before we do that, we pay our acknowledgements and we pay our respects. We pay our respects to all of my ancestors. We pay our respects to all of my elders. And we pay respects to all of my community members, past, present, and emerging. And we acknowledge the continuous and unbroken connection to country for the Bunurong people. We also pay our acknowledgements and respects to all traditional custodians of Australia, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander, who work, rest, live or play on Bunurong country. We acknowledge their continuous and unbroken connection to country for all of their people. And we thank each and every single one of them for being here with us. But today, on the sacred lands of the Bunurong people, we all gather in the spirit of respect and unity. And this welcome, it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for us to honour and respect the deep cultural heritage of the Bunurong people of the Kulin Nations, whose elders and community members have generously looked after these lands for countless generations. My people have a deep spiritual connection to these lands, encompassing all of our rivers, our mountains, our coastal areas, and all of our beautiful bushlands that surround us today. Our traditional territory spans from the Werribee River in the west and moves to Diggers Rest in the north. We move over to the Dandenong Ranges, the Yarra Valleys, and down to Wilson's Prom. We encompass the top end of Tasmania, which we share with the beautiful Palawaha people. French, Phillip, King and Flinders Islands are also ours. These are the traditional lands and territories of the Bunurong people that I welcome everybody to today. And as I said, we have a deep spiritual connection to our lands. And we have a strong cultural identity tied to our ancestral plains. All of our stories, our traditions, our language, our culture, and Bunjil's law are interwoven with the very fabrics of the soils that surround us, reflecting my people's profound knowledge, wisdoms, and ongoing custodianships to all of our ancient lands. And as we gather here today, we recognise that this welcome is a part of our shared journey. It's a shared journey of reconciliation. And it's a shared journey of understanding. And by acknowledging and encompassing the deep ritual heritage of all of our people, we strive to foster mutual respect, cultural exchange, and a celebration of diversities. And so on behalf of all those gathered here today, I extend my heartfelt welcome to my people's country. May our time together be filled with reverence, learning, and a renewed commitment to honouring and cherishing the Bunurong people and all the traditional custodians of this country. So Womanjenka Balaki Akya, Ngata Bunurong Balag Bik. And for all those who do want to be here, you are welcome. We come with purpose. Welcome to beautiful Bunurong country.
Not once does this dingbat mention the Anzacs. Now, all he could care about is we pay respects to my ancestors, the Gungarang people, or whatever the hell they're called. The Bungarang. I do not care about any Aboriginal elders, past, present, whatever. I don't care. This is not a day for them. This is a day for the Anzacs. These people wouldn't be here. They'd be all speaking Japanese if it weren't for our servicemen and women. Hello? But no, all this guy could care about was praising the Indigenous elders, taking away from the significance of Anzac Day and putting it on the Aboriginals, putting it on him, the Bungarang people. The amount of times he said that, it frustrated me and annoyed me no end. And the men in the crowd that were booing, good on them. They got it right. And I had the mainstream media obviously get really upset and say that there shouldn't be booing at the Anzac Memorial, the Anzac Shrine. You shouldn't be booing this Indigenous man that is only praising himself and praising the Indigenous. Did you see him actually talk about any of the Indigenous people that went to World War I or World War II or Vietnam or Korea? The Boer War? Did you hear him mention any of them? No. He's just going, this is the Bungarang people's land, my father's land. It's disgusting behavior. The mainstream media obviously twisting it and saying that it's far right. Okay, you want to use that sort of logic. How about far leftism? Welcome to country is only, in my opinion, far leftist woke ideology. We don't want it or need it at all. You're going to tell me, welcome to my own country? Are you nuts? You're going to tell that to the Anzacs? Hey, welcome to country. Guess what? When they came back, a lot of them weren't actually welcomed or greeted with the kind of reception that they so deserved. And still to this day, it is being stripped and robbed from them because of dingbats like this. I do not care. This day is not about Indigenous people. It's not. Why are they trying to make it about them? This is not your time to shine. So stop it. The fact that any pushback against a welcome to country ceremony is immediately branded as far-right extremism is exactly why people are tuning out and getting annoyed. Not every Aussie who questions the endless rollout of token gestures is some radical. Many are just fed up with being talked at, not listened to. Can you imagine the veterans that are sitting there having to listen to this bullshit being spoken about by a woke dingbat that couldn't care less about the Anzacs? If he really did, he would have actually mentioned them. When sacred national monuments like the Anzac Day become platforms for performative virtue signaling, it's no wonder frustration boils over. Criticism isn't hate. It's a demand for authenticity. We're losing out on that. And until that's taken seriously, the disconnect will only grow. Anzacs don't need a welcome to country because if it wasn't for their sacrifice, Uncle Mark Brown would be speaking Japanese. Lots of Aussies are fed up. I among them. This is just one of the things that happened. And the police are apparently talking about arresting the ones that booed. They wouldn't have booed if it weren't for this stupid welcome to country nonsense. We get enough as it is. Why do we need it at Anzac Day? They had every right to boo. And I'm glad they did. Someone had to do it. But no, they're now labeled as far-right extremists. And ladies and gentlemen, it just continues getting worse from there. So we have these pro-Palestinian teachers that are trying to smear Anzacs as villains to push pro-Palestine agenda. Have a watch of this.
History to fit their hateful narrative that turn their sights on Australia. And now, as we gear up to honour the Australian heroes who gave their lives for our freedom, a group called Teachers and School Staff for Palestine Victoria is pushing to rewrite our school curriculum. Their goal? To indoctrinate our kids into despising the very heroes who fought for us. This morning, their spokesperson went head-to-head with Tom Elliott on 3AW in an interview every Australian needs to hear. Let's take a listen.
Our next guest feels that Anzac Day should be taught a little differently in schools. She is a representative or a spokesperson for Teachers and School Staff for Palestine. Lucy Honan, good morning.
Hi, Tom.
How do you think Anzac Day should be taught?
We want to teach children beyond the mythology. We want to give them information about what the original Anzacs were actually involved in and let them think critically about the consequences of some of the things they did. And for example, this year we've released a resource that looks at the way the original Anzacs were involved in crushing the national revolution of the Egyptians in 1919. Some of the atrocities that they were involved in, including burning villages, burning dwellings, breaking up protests, breaking up public meetings, banning propaganda, and whipping and lashing people. This is just one of the events or series of events that the original Anzacs were involved in because of their role in supporting British imperialism at the time and then later American imperialism.
Well,
we think it's
just
incredibly important.
On imperialism, though. I mean, World War I was a war of empires. I mean, the Anzacs in the Middle East and in North Africa were fighting against another empire called the Ottoman Empire, which had allied itself with Germany. Mm. So, I mean, you know, to say that, oh, they were imperialists, well, the people in charge of that area were also an empire. They were just a different empire.
So true. Tom's one of the few fearless enough to confront these history rewriters head on. This is exactly what they do with Israel, distorting the facts to craft a narrative that attacks everything we hold dear. Now listen to what this spokesperson told Tom about their issue with Anzac Day specifically.
I think those themes of self-sacrifice and community and, solidarity with each other are really important themes to celebrate, but then it's a myth and it's actually a lie.
But why is it a myth? Why is it a myth?
Because the self-sacrifice that they were asked to do it wasn't simply a sacrifice for the greater good. It was a sacrifice that led to killing people. It led to the occupation of other people's lands.
But Lucy,
and it led to them
Lucy, enacting
incredibly violent.
The vast majority of Australian troops fought on the Western Front from 1916 to 1918. They were fighting militaristic Germany. It was easily the biggest and most awful war humankind had ever seen. And it was sacrifice. And the point was we were an all-volunteer army. Something like a third of all military-age men volunteered from Australia, volunteered and served overseas in the most awful war. And even though they saw people not returning or people were returning with terrible wounds, blind, limbs amputated, gassed, and they still volunteered to fight.
Yes, the Anzacs were courageous Australian heroes. Let's never forget that. We can't let revisionist history take a hold and allow these so-called educators to poison the minds of our next generation. And if that wasn't outrageous enough, Here's how the interview ended when Tom asked her if any wars are worth fighting.
I think there are wars worth fighting, but I don't think that the Anzac methodology supports or helps us understand which ones to support. In fact, I think it covers up so much of the crimes and so much of the, the root cause of the devastating wars that led to, deeper problems. And
So should World War II
in the Middle East today.
Should World War II have been fought?
I think there are real crimes that Australians were involved in World War II. My
Come on,
grandfather
we
talks
were
about
facing...
the way that he was mobilised to bomb Dresden, and he regrets it, and he regretted it, towards the end of his life, the way that he was used to destroy people. And there were many people who wanted to be involved in the fight against authoritarianism and Nazism, but to reduce Australian militarism at that point to what was happening there is to close off discussion and critical discussion about the way that Australians were used in racist ways across the Pacific and also in Germany.
Well, I'm sorry, I cannot disagree with you more about Australia in the Pacific was battling a very real enemy, Japan. And you want to talk about people who were racist. The Japanese were just about the most racist people on earth, perhaps not quite as racist as the Nazis, but there was a race to the bottom there. And as for Dresden, I can tell you the Germans were the first to bomb cities. They bombed Coventry early in the war. Once they did that, the gloves were off. The Germans started it. Never forget.
Firstly, good on Tom for the pushback. That's how you're supposed to push back against an actual dingbat that's got no idea what the hell she's talking about. This teachers group, where in the world did they get their so-called facts from? I am actually wondering a lot where they got it from. Personally, I think it's their own bias just coming in, especially with the whole Palestine nonsense that's going on. The pro-Palestine movement trying to rewrite history to say that Palestine are the victims here. They're the real victims, not Israel. No. Rewrite history to suit what we think is the actual truth, but it's the furthest thing from the truth. They'll also go after men like Churchill and say that Churchill was the real villain. People on the right are doing that just as much as people on the left. You're starting to see this revisionist history narrative prop up a lot. There's a reason why we have facts and the truth to go off, especially in regards to history. It's to avoid dingbats like this woman that have got no idea what she's talking about. And again, she's trying to indoctrinate kids about this nonsense. Can you imagine? A young kid on Anzac Day says, no, I don't want to celebrate the ones that actually fought and died for me. I just want to talk about the oppressive nature that the Anzacs were doing. Are you nuts? Like, honestly, you know how angry this makes me? Very angry. I have a history with war memorials with my great-grandparents. They fought in the war. I think it was World War II, one on either side. One was a German fighter pilot. The other one was an English fighter pilot, the RAF versus the Luftwaffe. I've also interviewed countless war veterans. I've also interviewed Holocaust survivors. I've heard their stories. I know that they were there, and I'm grateful for their stories. And I think we are losing our way as a society. When you start educating the young kids about things that are not true, society changes for the worse. When you start teaching kids about the truth, society changes for the better. We are losing our grip as a nation, as Australians, to woke ideology. It's destroying us. We're allowing countless people into this country that don't really care about our heritage or about those that paid the ultimate price so that they could actually be here. I've made several films talking about different wars: Vietnam, World War II, World War One, Remembrance Day. I've made a few films. I got a chance to interview a Vietnam veteran. That was special to me. These men that went and paid the ultimate price for me, I will always respect. I will always give them the credit they so deserve, no matter how old I am. Today, it was bucketing down with rain. I couldn't care less. I got up and I went the dawn service because that's what's right. I'm not going to let a little rain stop me, because guaranteed the Anzacs endured far worse so that I could honor them today. You know, the last bit that I'll say is we didn't have in Queensland, on the sunny coast, at Mooloolaba, the dawn service. We didn't have no stupid welcome to country. We went straight into the procession. We went straight into honoring those that gave it all. That's what Anzac Day is supposed to be about. But of course, it happened in Melbourne. Of course, all this is going on in Melbourne, of all places. Woke Melbourne. And to watch the mainstream media act the way they're acting, that the ones that booed the welcome to country, they're the problem. They wouldn't have booed if it wasn't for the welcome to country. It would have been totally different if they had booed the actual veterans. They didn't. They booed a dingbat talking about himself and talking about something he has no real business talking about, especially today. Anyway, that's enough from me. But you guys take care, you be blessed, and I'll see you all in the next video.